Hi, babies. How y'all doing today? It's the even more fabulous Mother Done with the even more handsome Mr. Kennedy, and I can't believe you actually put on glasses on camera. So this is what I really look like, honey,
No.
because you've been looking at me with crazy man eyes. And I'm,
Well, I look crazy, man. I with you all the time,
uh,
glasses or not. But that's a whole nother story. Okay.
yeah, you do give me crazy eyes sometimes. Thank you all for joining us. There's so much going on in the world. Just when I thought, well, they actually said,
Well, I
don't
look
even think about
crazy,
it.
man.
This
I
is the
with you all the time,
wait,
glasses or
okay,
not.
wait. Why are you talking back at me?
Okay,
Are
no,
you
no, that's
recording
okay.
this?
No, everything is okay.
Okay, well,
Everything
you
is okay.
sound funny. Are you recording this? What a
No, I'm
camera?
not
Is this
recording.
the camera? Because you
Just,
gotta
just the
watch what you
camera.
say with all the cameras every place they are now. Okay, so there are, we a lot of people have gone through greater grief than our family has, even though we had our own set of grief and own death in the family because of COVID-19. And I was really surprised to find out, back then that there were so many people in my family and in my inner circle that said they would never get vaccinated. And that made it difficult, but we couldn't socialize. If we did, we had to wear the mask and the 6 feet apart. And if you got a symptom, if you got a fever, if all of this is wrong with you, check yourself out. I was reading this story on this lady who she had a little girl. Little
Yeah.
girl came home from school because they're walking petri dishes, and she came home and she
Okay.
said she didn't. She when she got up the next morning, she said she didn't feel well, and she was coughing.
Oh, okay.
Mother took her temperature. I'm gonna say she must have been maybe about 8 or 9 years old, and
Okay.
so yeah, she comes in and she was getting sicker, so her mother takes her into the doctor, and the doctors diagnosed her with COVID-19. So he gave her protocol what to do, take the baby
Yeah.
home, keep her isolated, this, that, and the third. Well,
Yes.
and they have been planning this big family trip for the longest time. And so, she got sick like 2 or 3 days before this big giant trip, with the family and
Okay.
what have you. And so when she got sick and was diagnosed, they took her home, did what they're supposed to do. She felt a lot better. So they get ready. They packed up. They're going on a trip. And they didn't let the grandparents know that their child had been tested for COVID, even though she
No, it
healed
was positive. Was positive for
was
COVID.
positive. So what is your take on that? And is that irresponsibility or us trusting the medical system to have told us what we needed to do to circumvent, getting this contagious condition, COVID-19?
Well, it's two things. One, the biggest thing falls on the parents because the parents knew that their daughter was positive for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they tell you when you're positive that get at least get a 5 day grace period where you try to keep people away from others if you can.
And
I
keep her
mean,
keep her from
I,
getting
I say
sicker.
not just her getting sicker,
Well,
but
the
anybody,
whole
but,
family.
but you infecting other people because when you are actually sick, just like with a common cold, when you're sick, there is that infectious stage when you're sneezing and your nose is running and you touching stuff because you automatically touch your face and the nose. That's just in your eyes. That just seems like automatic. Well, if you knew that your daughter had tested positive, and now you even though you planned this big trip and you don't want to not go on the big trip, I understand that part, not wanting to cancel the trip, but it was irresponsible not to at least let your parents know.
Oh, if
Okay,
it was her dad
that the
expense or
granddaughter,
anybody in there.
yeah, I mean, but especially then because they mentioned the grandparents, they was
Mm-hmm,
going to meet other
mm-hmm,
grandparents for this trip, is that you would have not at least told the grandparents in advance
mm-hmm.
so that the grandparents would have been aware. I mean, and by being aware, it means that when you're around your granddaughter, you might have wore a mask then for a couple more days because she had been already been tested 3 days before the trip and was found positive.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that at least at least 2 to 3 more days that you should want to be cautious with her, and maybe just ask her to wear a mask to be around the rest of the family and anybody else that was going to be on this trip.
Well, see, now they didn't put that in the story about did
I
every
understand it, but I said what
what
they.
I'm saying, but that would have been a precautionary measure to take
Yeah.
because the mother knew, and she did
Yes.
not tell the child's grandparents. So did she do the right thing, and not telling them because her daughter
No,
was
she did
feeling
not.
better?
No,
And
she did
so
not.
she,
I'm saying,
therefore, she didn't think she was going to be contagious to her elderly grandparents.
okay, well, first of
Well, they
all,
make young grandparents too now.
okay, well, young grandparents,
Mhm.
no matter what age
Any
you fall
grandparent.
in, the fact that you didn't mention to somebody, okay, here's somebody who's actually was tested positive. I
Mhm.
mean, at least you know, and you have a chance to take precautions if you choose, because you may choose not to take precautions even if you do know. Okay, just like the parents, they were not wearing masks even though they knew that their daughter had tested
See,
positive.
that's what I
So
was suspect about.
that they could have caught it and they could have passed it on just as well as the daughter,
Hmm.
because all the symptoms are not instant. Because just like with the common cold, you usually, or even with the flu, you start feeling sick as the days goes along. You don't,
Hmm.
most of the time we don't just fall immediately sick from any disease. And COVID is nowhere different than any other disease. You don't fall immediately sick usually from the disease.
I don't
Eh,
think
eh,
it's like any other disease, Mr.
I
Kennedy.
mean, when
That
I
is
say,
on.
no, I'm relating it to the
Okay.
cold and the flu.
Okay.
Is that because you catch it, and you catch it in a similar manner as you catch a cold or the flu,
Hmm.
and you start to feel bad. So the first couple of days is incubating in your system, and you're starting to get sicker because it's attacking your immune system. Okay, that's what she was starting to have the fevers and getting sick. And the
Hmm.
mother said, okay, something is not right. You're normally not sneezing and feeling sluggish. So when I did, test you, and something told me to test you for COVID, and I did, and I found that you came back positive. So something triggered the mother or the father to say, wait a minute, may not just be a simple, her sneezing, and maybe it's a cold coming on. Maybe it's, I mean, for kids, you would think a cold. You wouldn't think the flu. You would
Exactly.
think a cold this time.
I pose this. Okay, we're talking about parents that have jurisdiction over their child and what
Yes,
they need to do at making those decisions.
yes,
I mean, when the pandemic label was lifted for the most part because the
yes,
deaths were cut down from a million plus
yes,
people died. This was a pandemic, and
yes.
what the researchers and the CDC says that right in this day, right now, that the pandemic has gone from being a pandemic, excuse me, to an epidemic. And so, therefore, they kind of relaxed the rules. You don't have to wear the mask if you don't want to. It's voluntary. Before it was mandatory. And that, even though unfortunately we lost souls to COVID-19 and then the residuals, people who they call them long hauler with COVID because they could get it at any time and it could come back at any time. What about these young people who are in colleges who go to where they come out in mass groups and don't have on masks, are half naked when they're running on the beach? They got on a string at the bottom and I don't know what pasties on the top. I don't know what it is. You can't tell.
Okay.
And they don't wear masks. And then and you never know who is in there that has been vaccinated. I mean, I think people are not going to want to stand at the gate going to the beach to say, for the people to say, okay, we need to see if you test positive for COVID-19. I remember standing in those lines waiting to get our vaccination. I remember all the stuff, everybody was like, we can't be humiliated about this. We're doing this because we don't want to get sick and or die. And so now the CDC has said that it's on a 75% increase since this time at last spring.
Yes.
75%. What about them? What if they got elderly parents and grandparents, or a compromised person or compromised child in their care or around the compromised child? Do
Okay.
you
Well,
think that we're infringing upon their freedom of expression? And should we go back to the mask and the 6 feet apart? Oh, and I know the stores would just be living. We just pull that
well, I
up.
mean, think about this though. I mean, the one thing that helps a lot of millions of people now around the world
Hmm.
is that millions of people have been vaccinated
Yeah.
already for COVID. So it's just like, well, like the flu. Okay, now we get a vaccination for the flu once a year. A lot of us, not everybody, but a lot of people
Yeah,
get
we do.
vaccinated for the
I have
flu.
a delicate constitution.
Because just like now they're saying the reason why they're telling people to get vaccinated again is because
Hmm.
there's new strains that have come out. Because just like with the flu, like the flu, it germinates every season. So it's a new version of the flu that comes out every year. It's not the same flu from the year before.
It's the
So,
same sick though.
well, I mean, is it you still get to catch the flu? But what I'm saying is that well, like with that disease, it always changes, and
Mm-hmm.
COVID has changed, and so they're telling people even the old test kits that you had before, you can probably throw all those away now because this new strain that's come out can't be detected by the old test strips that you have. So you have to get it, and they're
Oh,
giving everybody, and the government is giving everybody, every household, 4 test kits to have, so that it will detect the new version.
so when you think about the new version, have this have are the symptoms the same? Because when I talk to the long haulers, they say that when it does flare up again in their systems, it's even more, it's more difficult to combat it without something. I guess they got another vaccine for the long haulers, as they call them, because they say
Well,
they can
okay
come
now,
back at any time in their life, and
okay now,
they need to be
what?
masked all the time. I would pre-vented to say
Well, think about
coming
this.
out in public.
Well, one of the things that they learned about long haulers
Mm-hmm.
is that, okay, now they have there's one vaccine that you can take when you in the first 5 days of the symptoms of COVID. If you think that you're falling ill from the virus, they
Mm-hmm.
have a medicine that you can take. Okay, what it does is suppresses the virus so that it doesn't start multiplying. It gives your antibodies a chance to adapt to the new
The new strain.
the new strain. But the reason why people catch it is because that dosage that they give you does not last like just for a week or so. And if you still have the COVID still in your system, that's how it comes back. Because
So you don't
but
get another vaccination if it comes
well, you
back after
should.
you got vaccinated.
Okay, you should, but that does
Mm-hmm.
not make everybody do it. I mean, the reason why they're not forcing everybody into a mask again is because people protested so much about having to wear a mask at all.
And being
So
stuck at home, finding out you
yeah,
don't like the people that you live with, you don't like they toe jam, all kind of stuff. I remember one little girl, she must have been about 11 when it first jumped off. No, it was funny at the time. She
okay.
said, she looked right in the camera and she said, "Hi, I'm so and such and such. And I just want to talk to parents out there with the COVID-19. I know y'all pretty upset being at home with your kids, and you find out you don't even like your kids. You ain't never spent that much time with your kids in their life, and you don't like them. And let me tell you this, they don't like you. They wish they would get rid of it. I was like, well, out of the mouths of babes. And out of the mouths of babes says, you need to learn to do something. And,
I mean,
with these different strains coming out, I'm concerned about when the cruise ships. They remember they had that one ship down for days and days because they had so many thousands of
I mean,
people on it that was coming
would
down
it
with
happen?
COVID.
Would it may happen again
Oh,
though?
they peachy.
Okay, okay, but you cannot say that it won't happen again. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that it is on the rise again is because as the weather's getting ready to change again, our bodies are more susceptible to viruses when the weather starts to change. I mean, that's just a fact. That's why
That's
we
true.
have a
And what
that's
about
why we have
people?
cold and
uh,
flu season.
People don't
You
wait.
know,
People don't want to wash their dishes out of their sink where they just let them germ up. I know, but be still, my heart, all my pearls are on the dresser, but and
no,
they don't understand where all the viruses and that bacteria comes from. And there's a saying, cleanliness is next to godliness. And a
yes,
lot of people don't want to clean up, but we've come such a long way in finding ways to keep the virus down. Disinfectants. They used to tell us Lysol cured everything.
and
You
it still
know,
does, and it
and yeah,
still does.
and
It
our
cures the
basic
COVID.
home remedies will help keep you well. If you build up your immune system, and you follow the protocol, I don't. Can we put that genie back in a bottle and
No,
say, the COVID-19 genie? We have to.
no, no.
It's not. I got.
No, there's no bottle. Just like there's no bottle for the flu, there's no bottle for the common cold. Wait a minute, man,
We're
it's not
just
come up with
feeding the symptoms. We're just feeding our
no, no. You're
symptoms.
controlling the system. You're not so much as feeding the system. I
Mhm.
mean, the fact just like the flu is around every year. It doesn't matter what year. Every fall, the flu season starts. every year
Yeah.
a cold start, and mostly it starts in the fall into the winter.
And you know what is
Because
worse than all of that? A summer cold.
yes, because it's the hardest to get rid of.
Oh,
Because one, because you want to be outside, you want to be around people, and the fact that when you're cold and when you have a cold and you feel the aches, when your body's aching, you're
is that
shivering.
the achies?
But now it's hot outside, so you don't really feel like want to put cover on or put long sleeves on because you
It's
know,
hot.
and subconsciously you feel that it makes you look weird compared to everybody else. Everybody else got on shorts and short sleeves, and here you are with a full jacket on because you got a cold.
And you're walking petri dishes. I used to didn't know what that was when they were saying. I'm like, what's a petri dish? I thought they were saying like a bunch of peaches. And so I said, is this a petri?
You said a pumpkin.
I was a little kid. I can't believe I remember that. And they got a big kick out of that one. They was all saying, let's see what else she gonna do. That child is just a nut.
Okay, well, you
So
were
like
you
I said,
were at bit a nut when they thought you were talking about that.
people still look at me strange because I am a strange
Well,
person,
that's all right.
and I'm comfortable with that. I'm
Well,
I'm
that's a good
concerned
thing.
about the youth that are able to move around and still can go on airplanes and
I,
boats and trains
I
and
mean, but think
automobiles
about
and
this.
buses, and how people are getting infected. And and the older we get, the more difficult it becomes because our immune system is slowing down. And
Okay,
I
but
mean,
then that
there's things we can do. You just don't have to take that. you know
okay,
and
what it means that you would have to be a little more careful now.
a
Then,
lot
I
more
mean,
careful.
because I don't think. I mean, I don't know because it's not like I don't have a
He
crystal
said, I
ball.
don't know. Oh,
I don't
where's
know because I
hey,
can't see into.
hey, who are you? Who are you? And what have you done with my co-host? I
Okay, well, what I'm
could be
saying is
wrong. Okay,
that we
okay.
don't know if it'll become mandatory to wear masks again because they said it depends on how many people start getting sick. If you want to cut down on it, because if nobody's taking the updated uh, antibodies, when
Mhm.
they want to give you the newest shot, because that's going to be free starting next month. It'll be free for anybody who wants to get a new COVID shot for the new strain that's out there. You can do that,
So to me,
and it makes sense. Okay, it's a new form of it out there. They say, well, I want to be stubborn and say, well, I don't care. I don't want to. I'm tired of being bothered with being inoculated. Well, if you're tired of being inoculated, then that means you don't mind if you get infected.
now see that's a good point.
But
To me, that's
just don't
like
mind.
to me that I liken that to when you hear people say, well, I'm not voting. I ain't gotta vote. I don't like none of them. I'm just not gonna vote. Okay, well then you don't vote. You don't have a voice. You don't deserve a voice. If you are that steadfast against the Constitution of the United States, that can be amended, people. Amendments can be added. Just like they struck down Roe v. Wade, that was a federal offense to do that.
Yes,
To just take away a woman's right to make her own decisions about her own body. And
yes.
that's why I'm concerned about. Because that would go the same way pretty much as COVID. Because if you don't test, if you don't want to go and get tested, then to me that shows me that you're being irresponsible. Well, I can make the choice about my body to not get it, to not get inoculated, and I say you're absolutely right. That is your choice and your decision, but you're not gonna have your germy behind around me. I'm not feeding you. I am not doing none of that kind of stuff. Take your butt out here. I remember when the pandemic hit, and it hit like it was hitting hard. People was calling us a left and right, and when it was going up, talking about the kids had COVID, especially the sicker kids. And I mean, it was unreal. I've been through we've been through influenza epidemics before. We've been through the measles and the mumps and the chicken pox and all of that, and we still stood up. Not to get us wrong, there were people who passed away because of their whatever the case was, that they were sick, and that just made them sick of having the flu or having another one of these contagious conditions.
But think about this. Okay, you know how some years the flu is really bad, and they really they go out there and every news channel you look at, they're reminding people, especially the elderly and people who have compromised immune systems, to get the flu shot. because they're predicting like a bad flu season. Well, if they start predicting that it's going to be a bad COVID year, then if you are an elderly person or a person with a compromised immune system, then it would just seem to me to make sense that you would at least want to be vaccinated, that you
Yeah.
wouldn't just play it off and say, well, I don't want to be bothered. It's too much of a hassle, or I don't like needles. Well, do you like being sick?
I don't know
If,
what's in the vaccine. Okay, if they gave you a list, every prescription medication that you get, I don't care if it's for a little teeny tiny bottle of eye drops like this, they got, or a big giant bottle like this. There is a label on there that has all of the ingredients on it. You read this label, probably by the time you get to like the third acetylcholine, you're not gonna even know what that is, and then you give up. Oh, I don't care what's in it, and making my blood sugar all right. Even when they give us the information, my whole thing is I'm impressed that they can get that many words on this a big piece. Because when you unroll it and unfold it, it's like 40 different squares. And I'm like, who puts that on? And I'm like, and I love science. I loved chemistry. I love all of that stuff. I had to call the doctor and I had to go through the source and talk to some. What does this mean? Why can't they just say milk sugar? Why you got to go through all this
well,
lactate?
because of one
I'm
thing.
just saying. So
Because
give us the information. We don't use it.
okay, well, think about this though. They give it to you that way because it avoids lawsuits. If you don't tell people what's in it, whether they know what that means or not, you still have to put it on the label. Because if you didn't, if somebody said, "Well, wait a minute," if you had told me that it had a peanut oil in it, but you didn't mention that, and I'm allergic to peanuts, so I took your product because you didn't put on there. If you're allergic to peanuts, you should be careful. Well, then they will get sued. That's
See,
why you
to
do
me,
put it
that's
on.
not the pharmaceuticals issue. That's a personal issue because they would not know that that you particularly, you got the medication. You don't look on the label where it says this machinery, this product has been on a machine that might have peanuts, soy nuts, and a whole bunch of other kind of stuff on it. So we have to learn to read the label.
Okay, how
Learn
many
to
do?
ask questions about it. Learn, and
How
then you
many
got to think
do?
about this. If you're on medication, you're on
How
medication.
many people do?
Wait, that's what I'm talking about because they don't, and they don't ask the pharmacist.
Okay,
The pharmacist
I'm
will say,
agreeing.
women, the pharmacist will say, "Have you ever taken this medicine before, Ms. Love?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, do you want me to explain to you?" She said, "Let me explain to you what this is." And how, and I asked her, "How would this interact with the vitamins and minerals and prescription medications that I take? How is this going to affect me taking this? With my, I got to know what the side effects are going to be." And one of the things I discovered was like the Penton drugs, they all had the same kind of side effects. They just give it another different name. And I couldn't believe that the doctors, because they prescribed it for me, Gabby Penton. And
Yes,
I asked the doctor, this is for my
yes,
my neuropathy. And so,
yes.
and I asked the doctor, how is this gonna interact, or will it interact, and would it be a chemical change, and what should I look for? And so he said to me, well, the biggest thing that we thought about was it makes you sleepy, and
Okay.
it make you sleepy. And I was like, oh, okay. I took the
If
Gabby.
that's all it's gonna do is make you sleepy,
Yeah,
that was
well,
okay.
see, that did make me sleepy, and I went to sleep like that, and I had the most horrific, graphic, blood-curdling, screaming dreams. I remember waking
Really?
up screaming one day, and you was chasing me around the room, and I was just screaming and screaming, and you were saying, "I got you, I got you," and I was like, "Who is this?" And I wasn't awake yet by then, but nonetheless,
Oh,
the side effects frightened me. And so I said
well,
I told the doctor, I gave it a fair shake. I gave it a fair shake. I took it for 30 days. 31st, I said, maybe once it's in my system, it'll be better. Maybe it's once I'll be okay. I could, no, couldn't do it. And
okay,
I
but
would
think
try,
about
I will try what's going to be best for me. And they got all these diabetic medications coming out, all these potions, all these pills, all these syringes.
okay,
And
but the question,
the average person doesn't even know how to disseminate all this information.
okay,
Maybe that's
well,
why
well,
the
when,
kids don't want to go to COVID protocols. Too many words.
well, I mean, but once again, you're not treating the condition. I mean, the fact that the average person, we just be realistic. The average person is not a scientist, So you're not going to know about these different chemicals and additives that they're putting in the medications to put them to make them. I mean, so that's why you go on faith that if you when you go into a drugstore and you purchase even cold medicine, you have the belief, and everybody else has the belief that this cold medicine that you're purchasing will help your cold, even though you're not a scientist. And if you looked at on the bottle, said, okay, it has this ingredient, that ingredients in it, in order to help get you over the cold. You don't know what they are, and so you and the average other person is not going to try to figure that part out. We go on faith that this is what it is, and that's going on faith to say if you get vaccinated for COVID-19, that hopefully you won't get sick, or if you do happen to pick it up this year, because more people are not choosing to be vaccinated, that you won't become a victim. That you won't become a victim, though. I mean, people are going to get together, and part of this virus is that the more people who get it, and it becomes more and more out there in the open, in a sense, it is getting treated more like the flu. Okay, the flu is out there every year, just like the common cold is. I mean, that's what people have to really kind of, if you look at COVID-19, you have to kind of relate it to a cold or a flu, something that's always will be there. And if you want to protect yourself, you do. If you don't, I mean, now because so many people have been vaccinated, it's not as bad because your body has built up antibodies for it.
But now they're saying, the CDC is saying that it's on the increase and it's surging pretty rapidly.
Yes.
And you see the young people.
But it's a new version.
I was looking at one picture. Oh my goodness, they was on the beach. It must have been 9,000 of them. Between all of that, the first had the 4,500. I'm telling you, these kids were out there packed like sardines, just having a good time, spreading sweat and germs. Instead of So are we to ask the country? Ask us everyday people who don't want to get sick, who have compromised immune systems, who's the first ones to get the situation. Remember, they said it started in nursing homes among the elderly, and then they started dying off. And then I remember one nursing home, they had to close the nursing home down because they thought the nursing home staff was killing the patients, and that wasn't the case. That all got sorted out. But nonetheless, they got family. You then go over there and you see them. Excuse me. You have to be smart enough, because we were talking about this just yesterday about should I put my mask on? And you said,
and I'm saying yes.
And I know how to distance myself. I stay 6 feet away from everybody but you.
All I'm saying is that for some people, it would make more sense. I mean, and see, it comes down to people not want to be different. I don't see anybody else with a mask on, so I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to be the first one or only one out there wearing a mask. Wait a minute. Even though you have a compromised immune system, you don't want to look different from other folks and say, well, if they don't have a mask on, I'm not going to put one on. Well, maybe they're not sickly either. So it would take more for them to become sick from COVID than it would take you to become sick from COVID.
And some people still don't believe that it's out there and it's coming back to, they didn't say it was coming back to pandemic.
It never left.
But epidemic proportion.
And the reason why it's not that now is because so many of us did get vaccinated. So your body do have some antibodies to help fight against COVID-19. Okay, it may not have the new antibodies made yet for the new strain, but because it'll be out there and more and more people will catch it.
So you think we're going to get the same vaccine, and that's going to be the booster? Or there's a new medication, a new vaccine.
Yes,
for the new strains.
For the new strain, there's a new vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine shot that you would take to combat the new strains that are out there now. It's just like you get a vaccine every year for the flu. You have a new strain of the flu. They don't ever tell you that the same flu that you had last year is back again this year.
See, I'm suspect about that whole influenza.
But even being suspect, we also know that people still get sick. You can be suspect, but if you got a good immune system, then you'll be okay. But if you don't, you may be one of the ones who will fall victim to it. I mean, everybody has a chance to make a choice. I mean, if you think that you're strong enough and you'll be okay, that you don't have to, then don't do it.
During the last pandemic, you saw the signs go up and the footprints go down on the floor, marking it off. So make no mistake, there were a lot of social changes. You couldn't go into
Yeah.
businesses without a mask, and
Yes.
they have the pull down wipes so you can wipe off the handle and
Yeah.
the and on the shopping cart. Well,
Yeah.
this is a sidebar. This really helps with people that got arm babies, that they make that pad where you can stick that pad so your baby don't be touch, because the baby want to suck on everything, they want to touch everything, that they make sure that they're safe and everybody's safe. I do you think we'll go get to the remasking stage, or are we going to be able to weather
Yes.
through it for those who will get vaccinated?
What I'm saying is that because people complain so much about wearing masks, we may never get back to being a mandate for everybody to wear a mask again. But if in not doing that, if you have a weakened immune system, you'll be far more likely to get sick than the rest of the general
And even
population.
sicker because you got a compromised immune system.
Mm.
People with diabetes
If you don't believe fat meat is greasy,
no, they
then
don't
what
believe
is?
fat meat. No, they don't.
Okay, well,
And when we try to tell you, you look at us crazy, and I'm telling you the truth. All the way down the line, good, bad, or indifferent, right or wrong. And if I tell you a butterfly dip snuff, just look under his wing for the box. We got to start listening to our epidemiologists and our primary care physicians, and we got to start talking even more to the younger kids, and making sure that they're safe, because kids could come in with every kind of germ in the school, sneeze
well,
on
but
you,
you know
once
that
they're
they will.
outside running around playing around, you land on your deathbed, and this 6-year-old going, "Hey, what's wrong?" You try.
Okay, because they're a lot more healthier than you are. So what I'm saying is that
Oh yeah.
because people just like you've taken the COVID-19 shot in the past, so you do have some antibodies for COVID-19, even though you may not have the antibodies for the current version of COVID-19 that is out. Okay, that's why you go back and get a booster shot. No different than you get a flu
When we
shot
were little
every
kids,
year.
go there for your booster shot. It made it sound like it was just such a big thing. It's gonna boost you up. Come here, he's gonna
Well, it
stick a big
does.
tiny. And I
But it
always wanted
does,
to
though.
watch.
Okay, but it does though. I mean, we got to stop trying to put some negative on things that are good for us. If you want to be healthy this fall and this winter,
And
then,
beyond.
and beyond, but I'm not talking about what's coming up soon.
Mhm.
Fall is in the air. Next month, September, the weather will start dramatically changing. People will start closing their doors. You won't be leaving your doors open at night or the windows up at night. As we close ourselves in, if you happen to pick up this virus, it's easier for you to spread it to other people because you're in an enclosed environment.
Well, not
We
if you
have to
come to
care.
our house.
Yeah.
You won't have a thing to worry about. This, I called him the COVID-19 Sentinel. And for
But
those
isn't that caring for us?
that was
Caring for
absolutely
you?
caring for us.
Okay.
I didn't say I wasn't caring for us. You were just, you went in, and didn't any of us, if anybody got touched by it, it was I think one of the kids, but they didn't get real sick.
Oh, yes, they did. All three
All
of
of them got
them,
sick.
all of them caught COVID at least once, and that had to do because all of them chose not to be vaccinated. Okay,
My nieces and a lot of
you're
my
around
nieces
a lot
and
of.
nephews that were in the same situation.
Well, if you choose not to, then wait a minute. Can you stop somebody from catching a cold?
No.
It's hard.
I
Can you
couldn't
stop?
understand the word catch a cold. You're gonna throw it
Yeah,
up and catch it, turn my own self up.
yes, because a lot of times it's airborne. When people sneeze, okay, if you're in the same room, okay, that's airborne because you sneeze. It's floating in the air. Your hands may go in the air where they sneeze, and then you get it on your hands, and then because we unfortunately
See, that's
we
why we
do
were taught that. That's what. Oh my.
you may have been taught to do that.
Oh.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay, you went to reach too soon. But think about this though. You've been taught to put the sneeze in your elbow. Okay,
Right.
but how many
Okay, this one is better.
okay,
Did you
but
know
how many people do
you
that
can't
though?
touch your elbows?
Okay, well, even if you can. I mean
Oh,
the fact that
why
if
did
you
I
don't
do
talk
that
to
again?
but if you're not talking to people about how to be healthy, how to stay healthy, well then you're not concerned. I mean, it just like people are not concerned about catching a common cold. Okay, so I caught a cold. no big deal because
I
I
don't
know
go to
it'll
work.
last
You
for
don't
so
close
long.
down for a cold. You don't close down for the
Okay,
influenza.
once again, because you getting there's enough people being vaccinated so that everybody is not a mass epidemic. I mean, when COVID-19 started, you weren't already inoculated for COVID-19, so
No,
it was new. As people start getting vaccinated and building up antibodies, everybody won't get sick from it. So you don't sit back and look and anticipate that all of a sudden everybody will be sick from it. No, what you do anticipate is that some people will get sick from
hmm and
it, and
people have
if you
died
stop
from it. A lot of
and
people.
if you stop and take notice of the people who do get sick and say, well, I don't want to be one of them, well, then you would take precautions. I mean, you can't stop the common cold no more than you can stop COVID.
You could just have some cough syrup in the medicine chest.
I mean, medicine will get better, but the fact that this is
They used to
another
tell us sweat
virus.
it out. Just wrap you. They wrapped you in a whole bunch of blankets when you got the flu, and quarantined. You had to be in the room. We had to be in the room by ourselves, and
Okay,
and we were two to a room. So that meant my sister had to go into our other sister's room because I mean they wrapped me up like a mummy. I was sweating, and then I was like
okay,
shaking because I was so cold.
okay.
And
Well, think
I mean they
about
was
this.
giving me some nasty potion here. Drink this. It's gonna knock all the stuff out of you. Gonna be just stay close to the bathroom. This happened on the weekend on Friday.
Yeah.
Came home from school sick. I ain't never gonna forget that. I came home from school. I was sick as a dog. As soon as my mother saw me, she was like, "Go get the blankets." I mean, it was like an assembly line. They put me down. They got my clothes off because I was freezing and sweating at the same time. So they wrapped me up and laid in, and they got me in the bed and wrapped me up, and she gave me some to drink an asphyxity ball. I mean, I don't know what's in that, but they said if it doesn't kill you, it'll cure you. If you're not dead when we come in the room, you're gonna be just fine. I'm like, that didn't sound
Okay. Well,
encouraging. The next day, that Saturday, the afternoon, my fever broke, and I was like, oh my goodness. And we didn't have, coughs. Well, we might have had cough syrup, but it would have been like syrup ipecac to make you
okay,
throw
but you
up
may not have. I
thing.
mean, you may not have cough syrup, but there are people who did have cough syrup. I mean,
Yeah.
so everybody, the whole, the short of it is that no, everybody will not get sick.
Right.
But do you want to be one of the ones who do get sick and hope that it's not fatal when you get sick? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You can say, well, okay, I don't want to have to go through any of that because it's too much of an inconvenience to wear a mask. It's too much of an inconvenience to go get a shot. It's too much of an inconvenience for whatever you want to say is an
Well, I
inconvenience
think
for.
disease is too inconvenient. So it behoove all of us to take necessary precautions and realize COVID-19 is not over. It is coming back with a vengeance. Please take care of yourselves and your family. Speaking of taking care of yourselves and your family, here's the next thing. Oh my goodness, I've been waiting to talk about this for a few days. The Republican National Convention and all of the things that went on there, and then the Democratic National Convention, one on one week, one on another week. What did you learn, if you learned anything about the Republican Party, and did you see them at the convention working to bring not what I ain't touching nothing, not just
Yes, you
to
did.
bring
You
not just
did
to,
say something or what it did.
I don't know, I ain't touching nothing.
Yes, you did.
See, I ain't touching nothing. See, it just is
Okay, what? Okay, what
maybe
it
they don't
was
want me to
is
tell the
that
truth.
okay? Wait a minute. No, it's chats that are coming, and you weren't looking at your
Oh,
chat.
oh, oh, here we go.
That's what that is.
Oh my goodness. Hey everybody, you're not the only strange person. Me too. Times double because God saw it fit. God saw fit to create me and start laughing. Oh, I'm older than you and I know exactly what you're saying. That comes from my girl E Groove old school music. I know. I know two stubborn wolf heads who will not get their going. Call
Okay.
them wolf heads. So, here we go. Janie said, "Hey, baby, hey, Janie." She said, "I
Hey
got
there,
3
JD. How you
vaccines
doing?
at one time and was sick for 2 days." Now, see, that's somebody coming up letting you know what's going on, because they wouldn't give us, me or my husband, they wouldn't give us the shots all like that at one time. We had to go 3 separate times. And I was like, why is that? Because they said you could overlap and you could have adverse effects to
Well,
this. So I
once
hope that
again,
you're doing well. Tell her what you said, Kennedy.
okay. Well, what they said is that okay, they gave you an option. No, that you didn't. That when you came in to get your COVID shot, that you could also get your flu shot if you wanted to get both of them at the same time. Okay, well, for a lot of people that didn't work well getting both of them at the same time, because if you know anything about each shot, it gives you a little bit of the bug, so that your body make antibodies, because it's giving you a weakened version of that bug. Okay, so your body sees it in your system, says, oh, but okay, now I'm creating antibodies to get rid of it, because that's
Mm-hmm.
the job of your body, of your antibodies. Okay, if they give you both shots, a flu shot and the COVID-19 shot at the same time, sometimes because now you weaken your immune system from two different things happening at the same time.
This is
Uh,
Mr. Scientist Kennedy
but
Rogers.
no,
You wears
no,
many
the
hats.
nurses have said this. The nurses have said this, that it would be better if you took them separately, not at the same time. I mean, they tell people you can get both of them done, because they know that a lot of times if you come in, you only coming in once.
Well, what about that third shot, Miss
Okay, wait.
Janie?
Okay, well, she's saying, okay, you
Okay,
can get vaccinated women for the
the
flu,
flu.
COVID-19. You could also get a pneumonia shot, depending on your immune system and whether it's been compromised or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because they also recommend people who are type 2 diabetics and others to get the pneumonia shot as
All
well.
the shots.
Because
They've
during the winter,
been hammering us with the shingles commercial. If you have shingles, you can have a great life, but shingles doesn't care. It's been dormant in your body. If you had something
okay,
vaccine for chicken pox or the
well, that's
measles or
true.
mumps, it's laying dormant. See, this is where I get confused with the scientific world. Okay, now
One,
back when we were, I'm getting ready to say, back when we were children, and the dentists, they would come into the schools, and we would all be standing in line, and they would be looking in your mouth and get your teeth, and you get a little tube of toothpaste and a toothbrush, and you go on your merry way. Then they came in with the vaccines, and they would say, okay, then you had to have the parents' permission. But my mother was a nurse, and so she didn't need that, but she made sure we got inoculated, all of us. And now that you have to have like all of these inoculations before your child even gets to school. And my concern is, will whatever they're giving them now stay in their system till they get into their 50s, and it creates another malady like shingles, chickenpox? I think it's the chickenpox.
well, it was chickenpox. We took the vaccine for chickenpox,
Okay.
and they're saying, okay, well, part of that vaccine lays dormant in your body, and then it can't come back out again after after you 50, because that means that your immune system is not working as well as it was when you were younger. We have to stop and think. As you get older, your body starts saying, look, I'm slowing down now. I don't protect you the same way I did when you were in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. If you're in your 60s, 70s, and 80s, you have to be smart enough to say, well, I need to start taking other precautions now, because I've slowed down. Physically, I have slowed down. If you're willing to admit that to yourself, it's just like Janie, she came back in and she said, okay, well, the new COVID shot is not out yet. She went to CVS. Okay, but she said she asked them, and they told her, yes, you could do both. That is true. You can do both. But a lot of times they don't always recommend it, because sometimes it makes people pretty sick when they get both of them at the same time.
Well, we hope that you are the man, my dear. Thank you guys for chiming in. Know that we love all of you for listening and coming in and giving your opinion. I would like to know your opinion, Mr. Kennedy, on the RNC, Republican National Committee. No, the Republican National Conference, to elect the 45th to be their nominee for the president of the United States again. And so, did you see any of it?
Okay, well, I've told you my thoughts about the Republican convention.
Oh, tell us again.
Okay, the party that talks about being the party of law and order. If you're the party of law and order, how could you, in God's green earth, nominate somebody who's a convicted felon to be your head of your party?
34 counts of convicted felonies.
That you would want somebody who's been convicted of one count to be the president of the United States. How do you tell your young children, look, who you asking your children to look up to? You're basically telling your kids that crime pays, that you can be a convicted criminal and still get the highest, be the president for the highest office in the land. The fact that you are not caring about your kids, when you think about, wait a minute, you want to put somebody in office that's been convicted? I mean, that the Republican Party could not come up with a better candidate. I mean, that's shame on them for saying that they cannot come up with a better person to run for president than somebody who's been convicted. That shows no morals, no scruples. When they talk about being the party of law and order, how could you possibly say you want to put this man to be the head of the country and he's been convicted?
He's also a sex offender.
Well,
Whether
I mention that or not.
He paid a pornographic star money before the vote, and was looking for money. But y'all go in there and look for me some money.
But
So
okay, that comes down to morals. Okay, you asked me about the Republican Party, and I said, okay, where's their morals? What morals are they showing when you are going to put a person who has this checkered background to say you want
criminal background?
Okay, checker means that he has something in his background.
I'm adding emphasis.
The fact that you would want to make him the president of the United States, you're telling your little 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old child that that somebody being convicted of a crime like that does not matter, that they still should be able to hold the highest office in the land. That's what I'm saying about the image that you're putting out there for your kids. When you say, yes, it's okay that this man could be convicted of these things and he still is okay to be the president all at the same time. That means that anybody who's get convicted then should be able to run for president and say, well, it doesn't matter.
And these corporations, these big donors are just want to buy this election and they wanted to buy the other ones. I mean, here's a guy that has done so many treasonous acts. You stand in North Korea with Kim Jong-un, you shake hands with Vladimir Putin. Who is the other one?
I don't disagree with that.
All of these people,
but I don't disagree with that part.
I'm pissed off at the Republican Party and America for even allow him to continue.
Okay, but
he got impeached twice. I forgot about that. He got impeached twice.
Okay, but what would you say about him shaking hands of other, dictators?
I want to be like him. It wasn't for us, Kennedy.
Okay, wait a minute. You said it wasn't, but part of this country and trying to keep us from being blown up from a nuclear bomb. Sometimes you have to stop and think. You if you don't get to know your enemies, it makes it a lot easier for something bad to happen because we didn't bother to get to know them.
He his own enemy, and it was bad optics.
Okay,
it was absolutely bad optics. Just like it was bad when some of the people from the House went to on July the 4th, went to Russia to talk with Putin.
Okay, but then why did they get voted back in office?
How much more traitorous do they do
but
before
if you voted them back in office, you weren't concerned about them going over there on the 4th of July. Once again, it's easy to say something, but look at the reality. If you still vote these kind of people into office, does that mean that you really care about what they were doing?
No,
just like I told you, when you've been told to hate somebody on the other side of the world because they are communists, because they say, okay, I believe in communists, so I should automatically hate them. Well, you don't even know them,
right?
Well, you don't know this person, but you're being raised to hate somebody you don't know. You wonder why we have so many conflicts. When you're raising a child to hate somebody that they don't even know, that they haven't got a chance to know. It's one of the things about this melting pot of America. The fact that you have so many different races all living and working and functioning together. It should show the world that it is possible for different people of different races to be together, that we divide ourselves. We choose to divide ourselves.
That was the whole purpose of coming to America, and putting down stones to build a democracy. It's always been a very delicate freedom. Freedom is not free, and it's very delicate, and that's why we have to continue to fight diligently. When this cat said, "Well, I want to abolish the Constitution," and you still would vote for him, if he abolished the Constitution, you have no leg to stand on. Period. And women, and
that's common sense.
To get me, well, we all know what an idiot he is, and
but we're giving him too much. I think we're giving him too much time.
He talk about the Jewish people. He got a son-in-law who's Jewish. He got grandchildren who is Jewish. And if I'm not mistaken, his daughter, Jared Kushner's wife, she converted to Judaism. He sits up and talk about them like a dog, talk about women like a dog. And he's sitting up here, I mean, he's got granddaughters. How
Okay, you can have a love-hate relationship.
This cat has a niece that is
okay.
So,
we giving them too much time because I mean
that's what I said a long time ago.
But I didn't bring him up. I said talking about the party and what
I'm
the
talking
party
about the
should not
too.
have done, not him individually, about the party. And saying if we sit back here and say, okay, we can nitpick everything. I mean, if you don't get to know your enemy, then you end up something bad could happen. I mean, if somebody shot off a nuclear weapon because we don't know the other person and we could have known better that would have been not something they would have done.
I think they thought about that. That's why he didn't get reelected.
Okay, well, why he didn't get reelected? The whole fact is that we're trying to move forward and not backwards.
Right.
If you want to move forward, you can't constantly keep talking about the past.
I can't keep dragging it with you.
Okay, well, if we do it, then we don't move ahead. We're not moving ahead. Okay, if we're moving forward, if this election is about a choice of moving forward or going backwards, hopefully I hope people choose to go forward versus backwards. That's what I'm saying. Be willing to go forward. We can't change the past because without a past, you don't have a future or a present. There's always will be a past. Do we learn from the past? Do we not make the same mistakes? We hope that's the case.
We right now, well, I think it's going to be, of course, it's going to be here forever. The internet has changed the game. It has leveled the playing field. And even though we've been able to level the playing field, and billions of us, what is it, 7 billion of us, probably only about 2 million don't know anything about the internet. And I probably was in that group for a long time. I'm like, I'm not opening up that computer. Satan is in that box. Oh my God. See, that's what the mind psyche will tell you. And I was like, I don't know if I want to know all this. Like you love gadgets, and he want the smartphone. He got the smartphone and the smart where you could turn the thermostat. Don't even have to be in a house yet. Everything. It's all fancy. And I told him the other day. I said, right now, I just want my house to be dumb. I want to be able to have some kind of self-sufficiency. You go in the bathroom and the toilet seat come around the thing. We don't have to do that anymore. Then the toilet paper come down. Then you flush the toilet, and sometimes you get the bidet effect. I'm just saying. I want to, because I think we're moving so fast with technology, and even a lot of young people can't keep up. And I'm like, because for a long time I couldn't turn on the TV. Okay, so we got to listen to them, and we got, like we always say, you got to know what the other side is doing, where their head is,
and accept the fact that right now that there's things going on. You don't always have to like everything, but we don't want to go backwards because how do you think society will survive if we keep living only in the past? You have to be willing to go forward, even though everybody would not go forward. But if you continue to push forward, things will get better in the long run. But that's all because we will continue to look ahead and not behind. We want to learn from the past, but we don't want to live in the past.
And that's, they say that if you're looking in the past to be in the future, you're not looking toward if you're looking at the past and not at where you're going in the future and in the present, then you won't ever get to the future because you're dragging too much baggage behind you. And you want to I want things to go back to the way they were. Go back to the way they were when we couldn't cuss on TV and on the radio. What you want to go back to? What is it? You want to go back to when men and even back then police officers and a lot of people in law enforcement were beating their wives and they didn't have any place to go because you can't go to the police. Hey, because your abusive husband, everybody loves him. Everybody, I can't believe he's smacking you around and you making excuses for why your ass black down to your elbow. So we have got to pay attention. And if you don't think these kind of things are happening, if you don't think that this child abuse is happening, sex trafficking, if you don't think that these politicians are playing with your future and it's not with your good and with they're claiming it's good intention, but it's not with your interest in mind. I don't care what you're interested in.
That's why you get a chance to change.
They need to get money out of politics. They shouldn't let these Republicans or Democrats or any of them. This is the richest group of people we have ever had at the executive level of government, and they all in here doing all kind of skullduggery.
But I say this though.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with a rich person being in politics, no more than it is for women, than it is for a poor person to be in politics. To say, okay, based on your status, that should allow you either to be in this office or not be in this office. I mean, okay, you've known that there have been people who have run for the presidency that wasn't in Congress already. So should only people who have been in politics be able to run for other offices? You didn't know them before they was running for that office. A lot of them was not known until after they got into that office, and we got a chance to see what they would do or would not do once they got in. So, I mean, with a free country where anybody over the age of 35 years old that's a natural citizen of the United States has the right to run for the presidency.
Okay, so let me
election.
ask you this. On that note, that you have to
Yeah.
be 35 years old to run for president. When do you think old is too old to be in the race for president?
70. Period.
But that give them 4 years if they got a
No, not 4 years. No, from
the cutoff is 70 years old.
This 70 for me, 70 should be the cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
It should be the same thing for the people who are on the Supreme Court. To say that you can be on there for life, or after you run for the presidency, after 2 terms you can no longer run. We said we don't want another president to die in office, so we put those limitations on the presidency, on how many times they could run for office.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't put a limitation on how old they could be to run for office. Now, first you said you had to be at least minimum of 35.
Ooh, that sounds like
I'm saying that it should be a cap to say if you have not run by the time you're 70, it's too late for you to run for the presidency. That you should allow somebody else younger to come along. That's my thought. It does not mean that everybody will think that way. What I'm saying is that I will. That's what I think as far as what would be a better balance. That having long-term people in there cause long-term problems if there's something happens to them along the way because you put them in there for such a long time.
I don't think the Supreme Court should have a lifetime seating. They should get out at 70. And
I think the presidency should be 6 years instead of 4. A 6-year term, it gives you a chance to set your agenda and have a chance to execute it before you have to start thinking of running again.
Right.
And I think that will bring a little more stability.
Speaking of pressure,
yes.
What did you think? Now everybody was talking about Uncle Joe was too old. He was getting senile. He just slowed down. He needed to drop out the race. And he listened.
Well, that didn't happen.
Wait a minute. He listened, and he said, "I love this job. I love my country more." Well, paraphrasing. Was that grace or was that grace? Did they?
Yes, that was.
Did the Republicans who think they know everything that's going on with did you think? Do you think they saw that coming when he dropped out of the race and endorsed by VP?
Well, first of all, no, they didn't see it coming because they would have been doing something different if they knew that was coming. First of all, and second of all, it was not their call to make. It was his call to make and his call only. The fact that he put country before himself, I think it's a fantastic thing and something that more people that are in politics should think about. That they put country above their own personal interests or desires. They put the country interests above theirs. And if all politicians did that, we'd be far better off because we would work across the aisle and solve more problems versus just saying I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm an independent. So I run to my corner and don't know how to talk to one another.
Okay, now just so that you know, we're running out of time. And yes. What just give me your bullet points for the DNC's convention.
It was about going forward, not going backwards. That was what came out of the convention. If we're listening, saying go forward, don't go backwards. Don't turn around and tell women they can't have rights that they already had to be able to, if you want to go forward, you want to vote people in office that are going to allow you to go forward and not going to take away rights that you already had.
Okay,
Not
thank you very much. Wait a minute, you got to stop talking. We got the, little business
okay.
here. Join us tomorrow when Brian Thompson will join us to talk about Erase the Hate. It's a beautiful story about the arts and how important they are. And remember this, I'm on all the platforms. And just know, no matter how big or tall, short or small, thick or thin, matters not what skin you're in.